Third section assignment fighting presented by RS Ayanda Khan. So, World War II, as the name implies, involved the participation of pretty much nations on a global scale. However, conflict could also be found on domestic soil, and such was the case in the United States. In this video, we will take a look at three of those conflicts, the causes and consequences for each, and how they relate or not to the to war to World War II. So first, let's talk about American civil rights conflict. The time frame for this conflict spans over many years, but these in the primary document that we're given, the focus is 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 angled towards the events that happened during World War II. So, for some context, the NAACP Secretary Walter White alluded to Hitler using Jews as quote scapegoats to bring Nazis into power in Germany and compared that to the US government using similar tactic with the black population. According to him, African Americans had been seeking the same things since the Civil War, quote, the abolition of lynching and the abolition of the caste system based on skin color, based on skin color, end quote. Um, for example, the student, as we can see whose quote we can see on the screen, said that all that African Americans are asking is that they be given a chance to make our country the land of the free, the home of the brave. The Negro in this hour of peril is willing to forget any differences, any prejudices, or fights and march with the country in their effort to ensure freedom and life to all citizens. Now, the following year, in 1940, Walter White wrote to another senator, Matt, Matt Neely, that the anti-lynching bill was still necessary since lynchings were still a problem, but they have just gone underground, quote unquote. Now, there are other acts of discriminations that rose during this period, but such as the poll tax, which placed a tax on ballots in order to control what portion of the population was able to participate in elections. The tax prevented many African Americans and poor whites from voting due to the cost and literacy test implemented to weed them out. So many members of the US government shared opposing views on the morals of the tax, debating back and forth over whether the federal government had the right to intervene that that much with states' rights. Now, the cause of the American civil rights conflict during World War II was basically the lynching and the poll taxes and overall the unfair treatment of African Americans. And the consequences of that was that was the recognition of African American rights and liberties by the United States government. And the issue of civil rights had been a hot topic actually since the Civil War and heated up again during World War II. But overall, there are no direct relations between World War II and this, in the sense that the events during World War II did not lead to the events of the African American Civil War conflict. Now, second, let's talk about the Jewish refugee conflict. So the time frame for that is in the late 1930s, precisely around 1938, and the cause for this conflict was Hitler and basically Nazi Germany perse- persecution um, of the Jewish community that forced Jews to flee, and move towards other territories to seek refuge. There were growing concerns over the place of Jews during German attacks. Some were worried that the Jewish population was growing too high, putting Americans out of work and persecuting them, as we can see from page 37 of the primary document. Um, and the British government also stopped helping Jews immigrate into Palestine, and now pressure and attention was put on the US regarding how they will react to it. But at the end of the day, um, the US voted for helping Jews move into Palestine and establish a homeland there. So yes, this was related to World War II in the sense that the actions of Germany are what led refugee Jewish population to flee from their home country and seek refuge into other locations. Now, as far as the ethnic Mexican agricultural worker conflict goes, the time frame for that is during World War II, even though it's a little more expensive than that, but we are focusing on what happened during the late 1930s and until the mid 1940s. And it was basically the belief that the war would result in a shortage of agricultural workers. And so the U.S. entered an agreement, signed an agreement with the Mexican government over the use of temporary Mexican agricultural labor in farms of the United States. And as a result of that, there was an increase in Mexican migration into the U.S. into the U.S. As a as a requirement and there was a requirement for literacy test accompanying that came with the renewal of a crossing card. And according to Senator Carl T. Hayden, crossing card policies designed to prevent illiterate Mexicans from crossing the border would have a detrimental impact on those living near the U.S. who depend on American retail for essential supplies. There were all other policies such as White House Joint Resolutions 96 from 1943 that to remove the Farm Security Administration from any direct contact with farmers who employ agricultural labor. And according to Carl and to Hayden, this was an improvement over the previous text, which would have stopped all importation of Mexican workers, quote unquote. And this was directly related to World War II because the intake of Mexican farmers came as a response of lack of available agricultural labor during World War.